Hi designers, I'm so excited to have you on today. We're going to talk about being deliberately chaotic. Now, this is kind of a funny topic from me. And those of you who are on the YouTube channel, you can see I'm working in Procreate today. I'm just kind of messing around while we are talking today. But I'm going to talk about being deliberately chaotic. And the reason, it's a very silly reason, but one of the things that I hear is that very often designers want to still feel like things are spontaneous. And one of the things they hate that I tell them we have to do is plan. Planning isn't that sexy all the time. It definitely may feel like you're constrained a little bit, which is very concerning to some designers because they don't want to feel constrained. And so what I want to talk to you about is there can be spontaneity in your work while you're still planning for things. And I think by chatting a little bit about this, it will help you see that there is a lot of rooms for creativity. There's still a lot of room for spontaneity. And it's just a matter of how we embrace it. So the first thing I want to talk about is where do we need to be planning? Maybe the best place to be thinking about planning is for sure in our daily activities, okay? So when I say that, what I mean is that when I am daily planning, I'm figuring out what hour I'm going to do what, okay? So that means like I know from 9 to noon, I'm going to be designing. I know that from noon to 2, I'm making YouTube videos, or I'm working on production work, or I'm doing font creation, or I'm doing work on my create a new layer, Carina. Sorry, distracted because I didn't create a new layer. Sorry, lost my train of thought because I was so distracted there. Creating space and time for selling. So when we're doing those things, then that is the planning piece. And I've heard designers tell me that feels very constraining. It feels like not hard to do, but they don't want to do it. It feels like they lose all the spontaneity. So that's why I want to talk about some deliberate chaos. And I think I'm hoping for some of you who still love feeling a little bit spontaneous, that you can think of this as a way that you can be a little spontaneous and do it deliberately. So what I like to do is, especially if I need that creative rush, like for example, what's happening today, I'm designing with you guys while I'm doing this podcast episode. And the truth is, I have no idea what I'm creating. I'm kind of like doing all these blobs. You'll kind of see how they're going to turn here in a second as I kind of change them. But I am allowing myself to just make whatever I want to make. So even though I've planned for my day that during this time period, I'm going to be doing a podcast episode or I'm going to be designing, I've deliberately allowed myself the creativity to make whatever the heck I want. I don't force myself to only do, an SVG file if I can't, if I feel like that's not manageable. I don't force myself to work on a fabric line right now. Now, there are going to be other times that you're going to be like, okay, I really do, Carina, I'm going to have to force myself because I'm under deadline. I haven't gotten my stuff onto my platform or my shop, or I haven't turned in the thing I said I was going to turn in. Okay, you're under deadline. You don't have the ability to be a little bit chaotic, okay? But for those of you who are not working under a deadline and you just need some of that creativity piece, a few times a week for sure, I would like you to, instead of getting stressed about this scheduled time, to use it as a period where you get to isolate any kind of chaotic, crazy creativity that you want to have. And I think this is extremely powerful if you allow it to be. And it's because you are allowing yourself the excitement. That's what it is for me anyway. I get very excited about if I know that I have a space or a time where I get to just make whatever I want, do whatever I want, even though I've created the space for it, it's kind of like a budget. Like I've budgeted my time so that I can spend it doing the kind of art that I feel like I want to do that day. Okay. And that is very freeing. And I think if you start thinking of it that way, then it'll be a really exciting time for you. And when your spouse or your kids are like, I need you, and be like, I budgeted this time to do X, Y, and Z. Okay. And so it feels different because it was budgeted in time wise, but it also should feel like you're actually making stuff, right? Like, so whatever I'm making right now, the hope is that I can use it, right? So I do think, especially those of you who are in my program and you're kind of on a schedule making stuff, and the reason you're making stuff is because you're trying to get profitable, get your shop going. You can feel okay about spending a bit of time in what I call this chaotic, deliberate chaotic, because it will spur ideas. And some of you really do struggle with ideas. Recently, I talked to one of my designers who was really struggling with just like looking at their blank screen in Illustrator. And I'm like, I get that. Sometimes we get so stuck with what we're trying to do and what we're trying to create that we accidentally, without kind of even meaning to, get ourselves into a rut. And that concerns me. I do not want my designers in a rut. I want you guys to feel super creative and that you can make anything you want, but you're also hitting some deadlines for yourself so that you start making money. Deadlines are really good for us. And let me talk about this really quick. So we have several designers who have gotten jobs through our design suite agency. That's our high-level agency. If you come into Elite or Stars, you will be introduced to it. And we've had designers get manufacturer deals through it, and all sorts of cool things. Okay, and we do a certification program through those early levels as well. So anyway, all of that to say this, you guys, that there is time. There should be time for creativity in your artwork, because if you are stuck and you're looking at an Illustrator screen and you're stuck and you don't know what to do, like, you didn't get into this to be stuck, right? You got into this so that you could draw, so you could make, so you can create. So I don't want you to be stuck. So it is better for you to take that time and make anything you want to during that time, so that you can be that deliberate chaotic. You're making, and turn whatever you're making into something eventually, right? That's the key and goal. Now, once you get past some of that and you become more structured, or you figure out your flow, which is something we talk about in Accelerated Workshop, once you find some of that flow, the cool thing about that is that you are going to see that you're going to be able to open up Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever you're working in, and immediately know, I am working on this, whatever it is, seamless pattern, SVG, sticker, clip art, whatever you're working on. And just go into it, because it feels like such creative mode, and it feels like exactly what you want to be working on. Okay. So don't stress. This is meant to be creative. It's meant to be fun. And sometimes we get a little stuck with our own thoughts of what we should be accomplishing, which, can we just talk about that for a second, you guys? I hear this all the time. Designers are like, I'm so behind. I'm like, who are you behind? Are you behind me? Are you behind where you think you ought to be? Why are you behind? This whole concept of being behind, you guys, is a silly one, because being behind indicates or makes you realize there must be someone in front of you, or that you're in a race. Last time I checked, no official race rules are out for designers, and you are not behind. You're not behind. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Now, if you think you should be somewhere else and you're not in that place, that's a different story, okay? That's you feeling a certain way about something, and that has more to do with like you kind of coming to the mindset, and I see this all the time, that this is the right place for you and now to create a design business, to create something fantastic for yourself. 15 years ago, had you tried to do this, it might not have worked. Why? Because you didn't have the experiences, you didn't have the style, you didn't have the desire that you have right now. So my recommendation is just to embrace the here and now, what you're doing, what you're creating, and just be excited that you're here. There's no race, guys. No race at all, okay? So I'm actually curious, those of you who hang out with me on my Instagram feed and you see like any kind of post about this, I would love to hear from you. Like, do you or are you going to embrace some deliberate chaos? I love a little deliberate chaos. It's kind of like when your office gets completely destroyed. Do you guys have that happen? I certainly have that happen. Where like just everything is crazy and out of line, but it's on purpose. And the reason it's on purpose is because you were creating on purpose in that moment, right? You were creating whatever you were trying to create, and it required a little bit of mess. It's kind of like it's the old adage, like, that you have to make a mess before you can get clean again. It's kind of like, has anybody watched like the Marie Kondo, wow, what am I doing wrong? Oh, it's underneath. I'm like, why can I not see these? It is not working. I'm gonna get rid of that. Sorry, I'm talking to my Procreate because I'm disappointed because I put something in the wrong place. Anyway, when Marie Kondo like kind of like has people go through and they clean up their mess and don't clean it up. It's crazy at first, right? They pull everything out of the closet. It's a total disaster. It's not pretty. But it's like you kind of have to go through the mess to create the fabulousness that is like your creativity and to get organized. Same thing in design, guys. Like, we just need to go out of our way to build that creativity up a little bit every day. And it doesn't always have to be structured. I think you do need a plan for the time, but it doesn't have to be structured. All right, you guys, I'm having so much fun doing this Procreate. I like don't want to stop this episode. I want to just keep messing around. You can kind of see like it's kind of growing and morphing into its own thing. Once again, I had no plans for what I was going to draw for this, and this is really fun to me. And I hope that whether you love this or you hate this and what's happening here, that you take the idea of this and you go, hey, like it almost doesn't even matter what you create. You just have to create. And what happens is this beautiful synergy of exploration. And I just think it makes life pretty fun. I don't even know where I'm going to use this, you guys. I'm curious. If we move away, those of you who are on the channel with me, I'm just like messing around a little bit at this point just to see what's going to happen. Let's try a really dark red for this last bit, and we'll just do some more crazy scribbles on this. This is why I think Procreate is really fun for so many of you if you're playing with this, because it just allows you a lot more leeway, even though we can't get some of this leeway back, than Illustrator on the iPad. Which, by the way, I hope all of you guys are playing on Illustrator on the iPad. Ooh, I'm having trouble with the flow on this. All right, guys, I'm going to end this episode kind of finishing up here. I'm sure I'll keep playing with this, kind of fun. Oh, and I didn't even finish the one at the bottom. But I'm hoping that you can find some deliberate chaos, some spontaneity in your life as you're creating. Find that time. Absolutely find that time to play a little bit as well. But make sure that play is in the realm of planning so that you're making sure and hitting your own deadlines so that you're profitable. Sometimes I see people spend way too much time in the play, and that's kind of when they get stuck, and then they don't get to play as much because they have to work a much, longer, crazier job, versus if they would work a little bit more in that play, they could find some profitability in it, get them to the next level. Thanks, you guys, for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you guys soon. Hey, did you know that you can visit me at makeanddesign.com to learn more about this podcast and join my VIP group for weekly freebies? I can't wait to see you there.